The man accused of attacking Paul Pelosi, the husband of the woman second in line to the presidency, told police he was on a suicide mission and had plans to target other California and federal politicians, according to a court filing. David DePape was arraigned Tuesday in a San Francisco courtroom. A judge ordered him to be held without bail. He pleaded not guilty to a slew of charges stemming from the attack that left Paul Pelosi with a skull fracture and injuries to his arm.
He waived his right to a hearing within 10 days.
The public defender assigned to DePape talked to reporters Tuesday after his client's arraignment.
We're going to be doing a comprehensive investigation of what happened. We're going to be looking into Mr. DePape, his mental state.
The San Francisco district attorney who charged DePape says the attack was pre-planned and says he was seen walking up to the home in the dead of night.
Unfortunately, as public figures, our addresses are still oftentimes made available. People can look those things up online. And so, unfortunately, he was able to determine what her address was.
The speaker, the target in the attack, was in Washington with her security detail at the time. The chief of the U.S. Capitol Police said Tuesday the attack is a wake-up call. With just days until a critical midterm election, he said Capitol Police need more resources to adequately protect members of Congress.
This attack was very, very unnerving, both to me. I know it's been unnerving to those who have had to investigate it, to this family, and really to the general public, that somebody would target a political leader's home, target her family, to really think through and make a conscious decision to enact violence on a political leader's family. It's very scary.
Speaker Pelosi, meanwhile, told reporters her husband is steadily on the mend. While doctors expect him to fully recover, the path to that recovery, Pelosi said, will be long.
I feel betrayed by our justice system.
The two-day sentencing hearing for the Parkland, Florida school shooter began Tuesday with highly emotional statements from grieving families who lost loved ones and anguished survivors.
No one that's up here right now can imagine what it's like to have a little sister murdered.
Megan Petty's 14-year-old little sister Elena was one of the 17 victims shot and killed at Stoneman Douglas High School on February 14, 2018. Tuesday marked the first time families were able to speak freely without being vetted by lawyers and directly to the shooter in open court.
He was stolen from us by an unimaginable act that you planned and executed. You stole him from us.
Nikolas Cruz pleaded guilty to 17 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder. After a months-long trial, the jury last month recommended Cruz be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His defense attorneys argued he was disturbed and mentally ill. But many parents wanted to see Cruz get the death penalty and expressed their deep concerns to the judge.
Knowing he gets to live out the rest of his natural life, something Elena doesn't get to do, because of his disgusting and violent actions.
Cruz will be formally sentenced Wednesday. The judge cannot change the sentencing outcome. The hearing was simply a chance for families to open up and hopefully find closure.
There's nothing more important to my family than receiving justice for Alex.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
South Korean Air Force fighter jets taking off on a mission, firing 3 missiles into North Korea's East Sea waters. The South Koreans saying it was a resolute response to a record number of missiles launched from North Korea into its territorial waters. Pyongyang firing at least 23 ballistic and surface-to-air missiles Wednesday. ABC's Matt Gutman in Seoul.
This is the first time that North Korea has fired ballistic missiles deep into South Korea's territory. It landed about 15 miles inside its territorial waters. It's also the first time that North Korea has fired this many missiles.
North Korea blasting off those missiles from its east and west coast. The rockets landing close enough to set off air sirens in South Korea, sending civilians scrambling into underground shelters. The Pentagon saying the missile launches highlight North Korea's reckless behavior. These new tensions between the two Koreas coming after the U.S. and South Korean air forces began 5 days of military air drills Monday, amid concerns North Korea could resume nuclear testing, which it has not done since 2017. The North Korean missile launches come as South Korea is in mourning after its largest disaster in years. More than 150 people killed in a Halloween crowd surge in the capital city, Seoul. The White House is insisting the U.S. has no hostile intent towards North Korea and will keep working with its allies to curb North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Justin Finch, ABC News, Washington.
The Federal Reserve hiking interest rates for the 6th time this year as it tries to beat back the highest inflation in 4 decades.
With today's action, we've raised interest rates by 3.75 percentage points this year. We anticipate that ongoing increases in the target range for the federal funds rate will be appropriate in order to attain a stance of monetary policy that is sufficiently restrictive to return inflation to 2% over time.
The Fed is trying to achieve a soft landing by slowing the economy just enough to lower inflation, but not so much that it triggers a recession. The string of rate hikes making borrowing more expensive, from credit cards to auto loans to home mortgages. The average American is carrying a credit card balance of $6,200. If you're making only the minimum payments, after today's hike, the cost of interest has increased by nearly $1,600 since the start of the year. 2 months ago, a $300,000 home mortgage would have cost you $1,734. Today, it's more than $2,000.
Mortgage rates are up over 7% for a 30-year fixed, and that's hit housing demand very significantly.
The higher cost of borrowing is starting to have an impact on consumer spending. Stocks edged lower in early trading Wednesday as Wall Street prepared for the Fed's announcement.
Stock prices are down about 20% from their peak back at the start of the year. And of course, that's having impacts on people's willingness and ability to go out and spend.
Investors hoping for some signal from the central bank that it may possibly slow the pace of its rate hikes in December. On Friday, we'll get the latest jobs report from the Labor Department. The job market remains very resilient despite all these interest rate increases. The number of job openings increased this week to 10.7 million, which means there are nearly 2 jobs available for each person looking for work. Alexis Christoforous, ABC News, New York.
Overnight, Democrats in Nevada bringing in their biggest star, former President Barack Obama, trying to shore up support in the Silver State.
This election requires every single one of us to do our part. It's that important.
Obama saying the basic foundation of our democracy is at risk as recent polls show a dead heat between Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto and challenger Adam Laxalt, a pro-Trump Republican who sought to overturn the state's 2020 election results. This race could tilt balance of power in the Senate to Republicans. President Biden himself hitting the trail, sounding the alarm in former President Trump's home state that a Republican-controlled Congress could have dire consequences.
They're coming after Social Security and Medicare in a big way. Folks here in Florida, you need to know this.
But across the country, kitchen table issues like rising inflation and the economy appear to be helping Republicans make headway with voters. Democrat Tim Ryan on defense overnight in Ohio as those issues dominated a Senate town hall.
I think when it comes to inflation, we need a tax cut. We need to put money in people's pockets if we're going to weather the storm here.
Republican nominee J.D. Vance trying to tie Ryan to Biden policies.
The Biden administration, backed by Tim, supported a lot of borrowing and spending, throwing fuel on the fire, which has caused the price of everything to go up.
Democrats are optimistic. Issues like abortion can help turn the tide in razor-thin races like in Georgia, where recent polls show Republican Herschel Walker gaining ground on Senator Raphael Warnock. But Walker, an anti-abortion candidate, is facing new fallout after a second woman came forward claiming he encouraged her to have an abortion after a multi-year affair nearly 3 decades ago. Sitting down with our Juju Chang.
It's very hard considering the fact that he is someone who is professing so emphatically that he is against abortion in any instance, and that is the height of hypocrisy.
Walker denies the allegation, saying he's never met the woman, despite a photo of the pair from 2019 and corroboration from two women who say they were aware of the affair in the 90s.